I'm so grateful to Jenny Moore, a former client of mine who took my Compassionate Mediation program, who is sharing her experience of working in that process and what it did for her restructured family, and learn how compassionate mediation can help you heal, whether you're happy in your relationship and want to make it better, whether you're stuck, separated, divorcing, or divorced. There's things you can learn from compassionate mediation that will help you create a whole new relationship. And if it leads to a divorce, I hope you can do it like Jenny did and have two parents who are lovingly parenting their children from a place of higher self, higher consciousness, compassion, wisdom, and love.
And I was about to go to my first mediation session, and I was really nervous because I've never been in mediation. Lawyer, that was just not my world of lawyers and dealing with all that stuff. And it was my ex-husband's. He was a very successful businessman. He was very comfortable in that genre, and I was not. And so I had reached out to you, and you gave me probably the thing that changed my divorce. The biggest thing that changed my divorce came from you, and it was, you told me to sit down and write a letter. And you said, write a letter and make it come from your heart and give it to your ex-husband. And it was the night before mediation. And you said, keep it short, keep it about 1 page. And so, and I believe you had even sent me an example, quite frankly. I think, the cobwebs of my mind, I believe you had sent me an example. And so I sat down and I'm like, it was going to be a horrible day. So I got on my computer and I wrote a letter. And basically the letter was, yes, we've been through a lot, and I want it to be water under the bridge. And this is a chance for us to start over and kind of redefine our relationship. It's like, we will no longer be husband and wife, but that doesn't mean we have to burn the house down. And I had said that we were not giving the best of ourselves to our children, and he's amazing and I'm amazing, and we were just not giving our kids the amazing people that we are. And I just said, this is an opportunity for us to start over and kind of redefine our family in a new way, in a more positive way. That's kind of like the gist of the letter. So I wrote the letter and I printed out copies, one for me, one for David, one for each lawyer, for the mediator, and for the therapist that was going to be there, because the divorce was not going well. It was not going well at all. That's why I called you in desperation. So I show up the next morning, and I chose my clothes very intentionally, like my undergarments and everything. I have a whole theory about that we can talk about later. But so I was very intentional in everything I picked. And I also knew that everything I wore that day, I was going to give away to Goodwill or something, because I never wanted to see those clothes again, because I did not want to remember that day. And I think that your clothes have memories, and I just wanted them out and gone. So although it was a nice outfit, I was willing to part with this outfit. We all have those outfits that we know of. So I showed up the next morning, and I was nervous, and played certain music on my way to drive to the meeting. And I pulled out my letter, and I handed a copy to my lawyer, and I had the other copies on the table. And I had a female lawyer, a female therapist, and a female mediator. And David, obviously, is a man with the name David, and then he had a male lawyer. And so I gave Annette my letter. And again, this letter came from my heart. It was very, in my opinion, it was not, I don't know, it just came from my heart. I just spoke my truth like Linda had recommended. And so I handed the letter to her. She reads it, and she says, absolutely not. You cannot give him this letter. And I thought, why? And so then the mediator and the therapist came in, and she hands them the letter, and they read the letter, and they say no. And they say this letter is manipulative. This letter is all these horrible adjectives. And I was shocked. If you read the letter, you would not think this. And I stood up and walked out of the room. The place we were at was a very kind of Zen place where they had meditation areas and like fountains and different little places you could go. So I went and sat in front of a fountain for about 15 minutes and just cried and cried, because I had written this letter with the purest of intentions, and it was to kind of set the tone for the mediation meeting and try to change the anger that we had dealt with in the previous lawyer meetings. And so I sat out there for about 15 minutes and did the meditation I said before. I just said, oh, so sorry. I said, I need help and I need peace, help and peace. I was out there meditating, help and peace. And I went back in and I threw my hands down on the table and I said, sorry, I said a bad word. I said, damn it. I was like, damn it. I came here. I was like, you need to help me. I said, I did not come here, to manipulate. I did not come here for money. I did not come here for any of this. I said, I came here to save my family. And I said, I need you women to get your heads out of your asses and help me do this. And so that changed everything. And then they kind of shifted because I think they're so used to focusing like divorces as contentious, money focused, and all that kind of really negative energy. And that was not what was going to happen with me. And that was not my intention, but it came from that letter. And so that letter, they told me not to give it to them. The meeting lasted 11 hours and it was horrible, terrible. We basically punted and nothing happened. And then we had to go home. The kids still didn't know we were getting divorced. And then on Sunday, it was just a horrible, horrible weekend. A lot of stress and anxiety. And then on Sunday, I went into David's office and I said, I wrote a letter for you and the lawyers wouldn't let me give it to you. And I said, I think that you should read it. And he's like, so angry. He's like, I don't want to read anything from you type of energy. And I said, okay, but I think that you should read it. So I handed him the letter in his office and I stood there and he read the letter and I literally saw his anger make a beat like a zigzag and go out the window. And I said, David, I never thought that we would get divorced, but we have to for our family and for ourselves. I said, we are dying. All four of us are dying. And I said, and we can do better. And then that's that part of the story.
Oh,
and it was all 100% from that letter that you recommended I write.
Oh, bless your heart, Jenny. Thank you so much for that, because what you're talking about is the settlement intention and settlement prayer. And I did the same thing with my marriage. And that's how the Compassionate Mediation program happened, because I was married to my college sweetheart for 20 years. We had 2 children. And when it came time to get divorced, we went the adversarial way. And just like Jenny said, the night before my divorce, I sat down and wrote a prayer. And I brought it to my divorce settlement agreement the same way you did. I handed it out, and my husband's lawyer took a look at it and said, hey, Pete, anything you want to change on this? And it was a prayer. So at least he was being funny. Yeah, but yeah. It did set the tone for our relationship changing. And that's the whole Compassionate Mediation program. So I'd like to intending to have the peaceful and respectful settlement meeting. And we all come together from our highest selves and our own inner wisdom and guidance. And what I teach is self-energy, self-leadership, coming from that place that you're describing, Jenny, coming from who you were being in your divorce. And the intention is to have a peaceful and respectful settlement meeting in which all parties come together from both their higher selves and their inner wisdom and guidance. And it acknowledges that we have parts of ourselves that are angry and fearful and defensive and revengeful and retributive, punitive, unloving, unforgiving, sad about all of that. Take a deep breath here. So we're acknowledging for both parties that we have all these parts, but we don't need the parts to take over the discussions as they usually do. And often they get heated and we get reactive, and then we often hire attorneys that get reactive for us. And instead, we want to come from this place of our own presence and light, our own self-energy, and we give compassion and forgiveness and gratitude and appreciation. And that's what you were doing. That's exactly what you did. You told your husband, we are both good people. We deserve better. We deserve to start over. But right now, although it's come down to a business closing, I intend that we remember the love that brought us together.
Absolutely. It's like, and that was it. It's like it was some parts of that were in the letter. It's like we started with love. And that's how I would like for this marriage to end. And, after that, it fundamentally changed everything. And so the next several months of, telling the kids and going through the summer, everything was so different. And, that particularly from January to May, I cried every day. And then once we had that meeting where everything changed, and I gave him the letter in his office, it changed everything. So by the time the kids found out about the divorce, we were on the same page, and we just kind of made it fun and an adventure. He moved into an apartment, and I went over there and we had board games and pizza night, and I would hang out there until they felt comfortable staying there by themselves. And I would tell them, I said, there's going to be a point where I'm not going to be here anymore. Like, you need to stay with your dad, and I'm not going to spend the night, and you can't come home. Like, this is how it's going to be. And so now you fast forward 3 years, almost 3 years, and we actually built 2 brand new houses in a brand new neighborhood. We live 8 doors down from each other. We spend more time together, divorced, platonic, than we did when the last several years of our marriage. We were like 2 ships passing in the night that tried to avoid each other at all costs. But now he's one of my best friends, and our family has healed. And it's like we got past the really ugly, nasty. And one of the things I find amazing is kids are resilient. My kids were 8 and 10 at the time that we were divorcing, so they're 11 and 13 now. And what I find remarkable is they've really, for the most part, forgotten a lot of the really bad parts of our marriage. And I take that as a sign of healing. And in fact, one day I was talking to my daughter about a year ago. We were cuddled up in bed watching a movie. And I just asked her, I said, Penelope, what do you think about divorce? And she just looks at me very matter of fact. And she's like 10 years old. And she says, some marriages don't last forever. And she's like, it's not a big deal. She said, you get divorced and you move on and you stay friends. And she's like, duh. And I looked at her and I was like, yes, like, okay. So, my kids learned a very important lesson that just because a relationship's over, you don't have to burn the house down and everything that went with it, because we had great times and we did have great family traditions, and we still honor those traditions. It's like, we celebrate Christmas together. We celebrate the birthdays together. We celebrate we ride together to well, it's COVID, so everything's a little bit different now, but we go together to the games. We have dinners together. So nobody's lacking. We're still a family. We still go cut the Christmas tree down together. The traditions we had, we still do. It's just, we're not married anymore. And at this point, neither one of us have another partner yet, but, moving forward, that's David's part of the deal. It's like, he's non-threatening. I'm not going to get back together with him. He's 24 years older. And it's like, if you can't have a barbecue with him, he's one of the easiest, nicest guys, then you're not the person for me.
Exactly. You're like the poster child for compassionate mediation. You're like, and that's a testament to how much self-energy you have. That's a testament to how much light and compassion and love you were able to channel through your pain and your sadness and your fear and your hurt. So it's amazing that you've done that. Other people that I've helped, some of them travel together, go to college together, keep their partnerships intact. Because in the book, Compassionate Mediation, How to Add Passion to Your Marriage or Compassion to Your Divorce, whoever learns this process, even if they're the only ones that do, you were lucky that your husband read the letter and changed. There have been other times where people have to be the only one that brings this energy in. Their partner is too hurt or too angry. But if even one person practices this, that it changes the dynamics. Because when you're with your children, and you're going to be with your children if you have children after the fact, they can pick up on the energy, even if you're not saying anything. So if at least one of you is coming from your higher self, then the energy is not as antagonistic as it can be. And it gives the other person permission to be what they ever need to be. But you're sending out calm, clarity, compassion in a way that changes it for everybody. So
I would agree 1,000% with that because, and this is not a criticism of my ex. He was angry. He was very angry.
He was hurt.
And
he was hurt,
he
which
was
made
hurt.
him
He
angry.
was hurt. And so I think that you're so correct on that. When you're going through this process, one of you has to be there. And if you look at any relationship, when people say it's 50-50, well, sometimes it is. Even if you have a great marriage, it can be 50-50. But there's a lot of times where it's unbalanced, where one person's really low and the other person's that other person up. And it's no different in divorce. So if you can take like the personal affront out of it and just say, okay, I'm here and I want to do the compassionate way of divorce. You might have to pull and push and prod and drag y'all along, and hopefully for your sake that that you get there. I mean, it's not a guarantee that everybody's different, and I mean, Linda and we can't guarantee you anything, but we can tell you at least your energy's clear. And I think that regardless if your partner meets you there or not, if you have children, they will follow the positive energy. And so I think that is really important to think about that as well, because just like, butterfly or moth flocks to the light, so do your kids. And your kids are going to go to the part that's lighter. And if that's you, then do it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And you mentioned my dolls that I used earlier. So I'm going to just give people a little version of what that means, because I believe, and this is what I used in the Compassionate Mediation program to make a humorous, but still, we each have an inner child. And what we do often is women, but it could be men too, but women often go into a codependent situation. This was my codependent doll. I actually bought her like this. She was already exhausted. And you could push her stomach and she'd say, I love you, but she's too tired to do that now too. Anyway, women often hide our true feelings by caretaking other people. And men, and again, forgive the gender, it could go either way, but men often try to look cool and hide the fear and the sadness and the pain. And then what happens, and this is often what Jenny was describing about when people come to see me, is that when their needs aren't getting met, they get angry and they get reactive. And oftentimes these are the people that are doing the divorce. They're the parts of you that are trying to protect you and be aggressive or assertive are leading the charge. And what we want to do is take a deep breath, everybody. And we're going to thank our parts for trying to defend us. And we're going to ask them to step back and to let us find the courage, the compassion, the self-energy to speak for the parts that we're hiding. So that's what happened when you showed your husband the letter, is that underneath your anger, he could see your higher self. And he could acknowledge and soften to his own hurt and pain and share that with you. And then when the two of you can really talk about things with empathy, miracles happen. And you're an example of the miracle, because oftentimes this is what a woman feels like when she's going through a divorce, is that she's going to be a bag lady. And there's fear in even finding out what a divorce would look like. And men often feel, oops, it's the wrong one, but there's one that I've got where they're losing their pants and they're going to feel losing their pants. But in the meantime, I've got on my website the letter that we were talking about, because when we intend to show compassion, forgiveness, gratitude, and appreciation, even though our marriage comes down to a business closing, we remember the love and the children, and for their sakes as well as our own, we want to end the process in as respectful and loving a way as possible. And that's what you did, Jenny. You created not only a beautiful ending, but it gave a new beginning. And I like to say that families need not be broken, but they can be peacefully and respectfully restructured. And that's Absolutely. What you did. That's what you did. You restructured the family. And for the sake of all, and though you acknowledge the sadness and pain and mutual regrets, you look beyond this time to where you are now, where you can be friends and coexist peacefully. And your once intact family, and this is probably what you put in your letter, because you said it so beautifully when you were in the course, is that you had to kept your light vibrant so that you could be the beacon for your restructured family. And for the sake of all you once had and all you plan to share together, you finalized together the terms of your marital dissolution so you were both free to get on with your lives. And you completed the last painful task with the trust in the love you once shared. And because you were who you were, Jenny, you could hopefully remember it after this part is over. And as you're saying, you're even sharing more of it now that it's over. And you're not working from purely simple and self-serving motives, but you keep in mind the general welfare of each other and your children. And you requested your attorneys, put it very beautifully, to get their heads where they needed to be, to contribute what is needed for the mutual benefit of all concerned. And in the end, you not only behave civilly, but you behave lovingly with a clear conscience. And as much as you could, you came from your heart. And that, Jenny, is what made it so special about what you gave your husband and what you gave your children and what you gave your family. And not only your family, your extended family and your friends and everybody that knows you can take the lead of what you were able to bring to your marriage and take that into your extended family. And as a beacon of what a divorce can be, like your daughter said, it can be two people who loved each other, who share children together, who can be friends for the rest of their lives and do it in the highest good for all concerned. So
well, it was interesting because when it was kind of all said and done and kind of in the summer when we were finalizing the details, I remember my lawyer called me and she said, I've never seen anything like this happen. And she said, we were over here. Things were really, really terrible. And we ended up way, way over here. And what she didn't even know is we would get further over here than we were when we actually signed the papers. But she said, I've never seen anything like this. And I said, well, Annette, I said, because I didn't fight. Like, I wasn't here to fight for money or for the things people typically do. I said, I was here fighting for our family. And I said, I knew that our family could be better than what it was. And I said, and that's the honest to God truth. It's like, I came in with good intentions and the outcome kind of speaks for itself,
The outcome is a testament to not only your good intentions, but your generous and loving heart. And you're an inspiration, not just to me to keep doing this, but part of my focus has been to help individuals and couples in the Compassionate Mediation program get the videos and get the downloads and get access to everything that you had access to. But my other goal is to switch gears and train professionals. So I have a roadmap and a certification process for therapists, mediators, attorneys, coaches, clergy. And lately, I was even given permission by the National Board of Certified Counselors and the International Coach Federation that I can give continuing education credits to professionals who are taking the program. Is how to so I'm going to put that on self in the relationship, how to create a compassionate relationship, no matter what the outcome's going to be, how to explore all your options, understand your rights and finances, and finally create the relationship you desire and deserve, no matter what that relationship's going to look like in the future.
Divorce is hard, and you've been through it. I've been through it. Nobody wishes it upon anybody, but it doesn't have to be as terrible as some people make it out to be. And it's like, if you can sometimes take a step back and look at the bigger picture of where you want to end up instead of where you are, I think that gives you perspective. And that's one thing I did also is I wrote down a visualization of if I could be in charge of the world, right? And this how I want my divorce to look. And you can't do like 3 or 6 months out because it's too close to you. But if you can look like 5 years down the road and say like, this is what I want 5 years from now to look like, that's where you strive to get. Because the 1 month, the 3 month, it's too hard. It's too like, what do you like packing the house? It's too much. But if you can look further, it kind of gives you a guide to help get you out of the crazy and the finger pointing and the anger to be like, oh, I need to calm this down in order to get there.
Exactly. And what, in internal family systems terminology of self and parts, you bring your higher self and you speak for your parts instead of from your parts. And in the Chopra certification, where I became a meditation teacher in yoga and Ayurveda, they talk about higher consciousness. And that's what you're talking about. You're talking about, there are 7 levels of consciousness. And the more conscious you get, the more you meditate, like you said, so you get to that place of peace and calm inside of you. When you get to that place, you can solve a problem, but you're no longer on the level of awareness that the problem was started on. So you're not mired in your defenses. And you mentioned writing a letter. When I was first getting divorced, I wrote 7 letters, and I wrote them from each of my chakras. And from the bottom chakra, exactly the way it started was not the way it ended, but it gave me a chance to speak for all of my parts. So I got out my anger, I got out my resentment, I changed the way I thought, I came from my heart, I spoke my truth, I got in touch with my intuition. And by the time it was finally divinely downloaded, I was able to look at it from that higher level of consciousness that you're talking about. So you have been such a gift to me. I can't begin to tell you. Hopefully someone listening to this will want to do the work that you've done to get the outcome that you have. You can go to lindakroll.com. I've got some information there. The Compassionate Mediation Program.com has information on it. I also have on the website blog posts to talk about how to tell your children. lindakrollbook.com, you can actually get a free chapter of the book, Compassionate Mediation. I think my Kindle book on compassionate divorce is now free on Kindle Unlimited. And lindakroll.com book-resource. You're going to find the guided meditation that Jenny was talking about, where you actually can do some deep breaths, where you can ask these parts that are so reactive to step back and relax, where you can go up a mountain to your higher self. And from your higher self, you send compassion to the higher self of your partner. And then the healing and transformation happens.
Linda is second to none. I mean, she's remarkable and amazing. And like I said at the very beginning, she is just a beacon of light and so generous. And even through all her trials and tribulations, which she has many, she keeps going and going and sharing with the world. So if you can work with Linda in any form or fashion, just do it. Don't even think about it twice. It's a no-brainer.
Thank you so much, honey. Bless your heart. Thank you so much for being here. If anybody's got questions, send them to me at linda@lindakroll.com. And Jenny, I love you dearly, and thanks again, honey. And you're a blessing, not just to me, but especially to your restructured family and everybody that knows you. So thank you. God bless you, and we'll talk soon. Bye.